We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Jason Marshall Jr., Miami Dolphins rookie corner. He had missed a lot of time recently, after going on IR with injury. And, he returned last week, only played like a few snaps. This game, you got to see a little bit more work out of him. And I think he got to show like some flashes of potential. I much prefer him on the outside. I think that's just where he belongs. He spent most of his time playing as like a nickel corner still in this game, but we got to see a little on the outside, and I thought those were where all of his best plays came from. Most of his negative plays came from the nickel. I just think he's a better outside man-to-man quarter where he gets to show off his athleticism, his fluidity. He does a lot of good stuff in that. Like, he can make plays in the nickel, but I think, zone, nickel, that's where he kind of gets into trouble, makes some plays that you don't quite want. I think scramble drill is really where he kind of struggled today. But you can definitely see his physical capabilities out there. His athleticism stands out at his size for sure. I just think, a little more playing time, a little more experience could definitely help him out, especially in these types of situations right here. Where, we're going to break all of that down for sure. But let's start out initially what we got going on here. He's basically matched up one-on-one on the outside here. So Dolphins aren't quite playing man-to-man, but basically what's created with what they're doing here defensively, Marshall gets a one-on-one created with Keon Coleman. He does a really good job staying square, staying patient, and then once, he maybe gets a little bit too open up to the outside, he will flip his hips pretty fluidly, stay exactly in phase with Keon Coleman, and doing a really good job not getting the PI here, not panicking, because he does kind of lose a little bit of balance there, shooting that hand and down the field. Kind of trips a little bit there, but stays in phase, doesn't get overly physical. This is a fairly solid rep, getting a deep target down the field. Keon Coleman did catch one over Bonner, but I think Brents and Marshall in those situations did a better job. Definitely need to see more of his sample size on the outside, but I think that's where we're going to find more success out of him. I understand why they've put him in the nickel. They literally have no one. Like after Kohu went down, like the nickel pretty much this season has been a safety. Like Minka has played a ton of nickel for you, and even some of the other guys have played as like a big nickel package. But I do think I really did like what I saw out of Marshall in this game, especially when he was on the outside. That's just what he did at Florida, and that's where I just think his size and skill set just fit better there. Here's another big play where, Dolphins kind of they rotate into this cover two pre-snap. Might look like it could, initially here might be like a quarters look with where these safeties are. Maybe, rotate to a cover three when one of these safeties comes down. They just end up going into deep half, nothing too crazy. Now, he is the flat defender, but he just understands, like, situation, what's going on. I think this is fairly good to gain depth here, because I think in a lot of spots, corners might try to get down and get to this running back down the flat, but when you're up, let the, plays in front of you happen, come down, make a tackle. I really like that he gains depth in the situation, especially because this route concept that they run with this receiver more running like an out and up, and this receiver running down the seam, this guy occupies Trader, who's the deep half defender, which then would create room down the sideline if Marshall didn't carry this, which he does. So shows off good instincts to carry in that spot. Now, I'd like to see him finish at the catch point, because he could come away with an interception here, and him tipping it, he actually almost knocks it into Coleman's hands. He's not quite able to come down with it. But it is nice to see him making a pretty instinctual play. I think he's just better on a vertical plane, even if he is the flat defender here. When he's playing on that vertical plane, he looks very comfortable, has the speed to carry that as well. Heads up next time, making an on-ball play. Because I feel like he does have a chance. He's like, it is a tough play to actually, come down with. But if you are going to swat it down, actually swat it down. Don't tip it up like that and give the receiver a chance. But overall, like what I saw there from a mental standpoint, and you can see the athletic traits. Like Marshall's the one I think that's hardest to pin down. I had some question marks coming into the season when they initially drafted him in his tape, and I think that some of that's still shown up. And I do think, like, he is a little bit hard to judge because he's mostly played out of position, a position he's never played before. Because it's like nickel is a very different thing, and he's had some decent moments there, but for the most part, I think has struggled. And then he didn't play for a while, and you see, like, a lot of the rookies that struggled early in the year, a lot of them are playing better. Like Grant and Trader, those guys have gotten better for sure, and even some of the guys who were playing decent in the beginning also got better, like Jordan Phillips, Ollie Gordon. So like, want to give Jason Marshall more time before you can really judge him, but like the outside stuff looked good in this game. Like, this is really clean technique. You can see the fluidity on that vertical plane. First, Jason Marshall. like that he's staying square, stay squared, patient. You play a mirror motor technique where you're kind of inching back right here. You're mirroring him with your feet. Once he gets to the outside, you open those hips, stay and run with it. They actually check it down to the other side. I would love to see these plays actually get targeted, but I feel like this is probably his cleanest technique play. Where the other play was like looking a little bit off balance, a little bit uncomfortable. Here he's like super smooth, has really good knee bend. He's not overly bending at the waist. Right here's like maybe the only spot he's slightly looking a little uncomfortable, but he adjusts right away, opens those hips. Very fluid mover for a guy of his size. Like he tested off the charts. Dolphins clearly value that. Here in the nickel playing man to man on Khalil Shakur, they're running like a little bit of a shake route where he kind of sits on it and then shakes the inside. Marshall's able to stick with that all the way. Had some up and down reps, like he'll have a rep where he loses to Shakir. Really, the only one he lost in man to man today when we get to that. Here in the nickel again with a matchup on Shakir, you're kind of, Dolphins are going into cover two. You're playing as like this hook defender right here, and you just match this because Josh Allen's kind of off screen here, but Josh Allen hits his back foot and he's kind of reading the receiver through to the quarterback. You see him hit the back foot, and you're ready to anticipate. Like he shows some anticipation to break and maintain this leverage on that dig route right there, that like more underneath kind of dig route. And Marshall's in a good position to take that away. Ball does not end up going his way. You end up getting a nice sack there because Josh Allen is looking in this area, but everything's just taken away. This is where you can kind of marry your coverage and pass rush together at the same time. That was a huge key for Miami in this game in general, because that's something they've struggled with all season long, but not in this game. They showed that, like, hey, if you can marry your pass rush with your pass rush, really, really good stuff. The coverage and pass rush combined together. This is the one rep he lost, like playing man to man. Basically, Dolphins look like they're running, one rat, linebackers ratting. He's in the hip pocket of Shakir. Shakir is their best receiver, to be fair, and it's not like a terrible initial rep, and it is a play like that is extended. Like all of Marshall's plays that he gave up in this game were off extended plays. So like ones where Josh Allen was able to escape the pocket or get a little bit of extra time. Like this one, then Shakir separates late. Like he's in the hip pocket once he's like right there, decent position, and then he just loses his balance a little bit, slips, almost is able to recover and get back into a decent spot, but they are able to complete it. They did get a penalty somewhere else. I think Jack Jones was holding on that one, but that was just one of the reps that he lost. Not going to put too much stock into that. Going against a very quick and shifty slot receiver, that type of play is going to happen when they have all that time. And then here's the two plays that I thought, okay, he can learn from this. Because once you get in this, like, he's gaining depth. He's not, he's at his landmark. He's in a decent spot. He peeks to find the receiver, take away an initial throwing lane, stay with it. Know you have help there. Just float with the quarterback. But now once Josh Allen goes back this way, you just got to find a guy. And I feel like he doesn't stick with a guy because Minka and Jason kind of both run with Knox, but Minka's at least like, hey, I'm committed to this guy. Man to man, I have eyes on him. Marshall's kind of just flowing with Josh Allen, and everyone else is basically manned up. You got him here. You got everyone else kind of taken away. Marshall kind of just floats into no man's land when he should be looking around. Have your eyes active if you aren't covering anyone and see if anyone's open in that area. And Curtis Samuel's kind of just floating right behind you, and he gets open late. So that is something I think he can learn mentally. This happened a couple times, like on the later touchdown right here, this one as well, because they cover up everything initially. This is all taken away. He actually communicates that, they're breaking to the inside. Trader takes Shakir. Now, I understand why he did this, because Josh Allen does escape to the right, so he wants to go with it, and he sees James Cook kind of pull away from these linebackers, but I feel like he just show a little bit of, like, a natural instinct in these spots to be like, okay, this is covered up. I need to find someone that's just not covered at all, and this guy is behind both of them. It'd be very difficult for Brooks to just turn around and know that tight end's there and then him cover that guy. And Brooks is also the one that probably would have to break to stop Josh Allen running. So I do think Marshall has to turn and find, because everyone else is pretty much covered up. Just sort of a slight mental mistake. I don't put as much onto this time, because it is, I think, tough for him to get over to Jackson Haas in this situation. But he pretty much kind of showed some poor eye discipline in that scenario, and just understanding of what he needs to do in that spot. But overall, I do think the flashes are there, the ability to play man on the outside. Most of his mistakes came in the nickel. Not gonna put the greatest amount of stock into that for Marshall. So I think if he gets some more outside opportunities, that's what I want to see. I mean, it is tough with the room right now, and you also want to get Juju Brent's opportunities, and it looks like Rasul Douglas is going to be back. And I'm sure he'll still play some nickel, but I will keeping an eye out for Marshall, especially if he's able to step up in the nickel or if he does get outside reps, because I think that's where he will transition into future years. They're definitely gonna be trying him as an outside corner. I don't think that the nickel thing will last too long. I'm sure like he could still end up going back to nickel, but I do think they're gonna probably end up prioritizing him as an outside guy. So if you're like,